we see Ydremwai Iolair, a yacht tasked with transporting 260 island sailors from the Royal Naval Reserve home after World War I ended. The men were looking forward to spending New Year's Day 1919 with their families, but the vessel struck rocks close to Stornoway and sank. 201 men lost their lives in the tragedy. Below we see the faces and stories of local men who lived through and experienced World War I. Some were killed in action, some lived the rest of their lives with injuries sustained in battle, and some went on to serve in World War II. The Ross Mountain Battery was a territorial force and part of the 4th Highlanders Mountain Brigade. Nearly 150 men from the island served in its ranks. The battery would see action in Gallipoli. The 11th Scouts were a regiment of gamekeepers and deer stalkers, and in 1916 they became the British Army's first sniper unit, the Sharpshooters. A local man who distinguished himself in this unit was Duncan McCrae, and we are fortunate to have the telescope he used to report enemy action on display. During World War II, the RAF had 30 servicemen stationed at Solval, who manned an outpost in Croggery, where airmen would be on watch day and night. There was also an RAF manned beacon at the Crecongorom at the east end of Balalan, and many of the servicemen made use of the canteen built at Cowes by the Navy. In 1942, a British training submarine depot ship showed up unannounced at Allenebeny on a secret business. Disused buildings in Cowes were taken over and used as workshops and stores. In fact, the ship was training crews of manned torpedoes, known as chariots, in nearby lochs. These remarkable human torpedoes were used in many theatres of war, including a raid on the German battleship Tirpitz. We have on display a large collection of tartan-related objects, including kilts, dirks, sporrans and targes. These are on loan from Leslie Dunn, a former director at Hector Russell, the kilt makers in Inverness. There are examples of sporrans from as far back as the Georgian period, and the Highland dress outfit in MacDonald tartan dates from 1820. The Seaforth Highlander Regiment began as the 78th Highland Regiment of Foot and was formed in 1793 by Francis Humberston Mackenzie, a descendant of the Earls of Seaforth. In 1881, it merged with the 72nd Duke of Albany's own Highlanders, becoming the Seaforth Highlanders. During the First World War, the 1st Battalion took part in the Battle of Givenchy. The 2nd Battalion formed part of the British Expeditionary Force and took part in the Battle of Marne and the Battle of Aisne, where it sustained major casualties. There have been push factors that have driven islanders from their homeland over the centuries. From the collapse of the kelp industry following the Napoleonic Wars, the potato famine of 1847, the forced evictions known as the clearances, to the economic uncertainty following the 2 World Wars, many islanders faced with famine or unemployment decided to chance a new life overseas. Here you see a collection of cameras donated by local residents. There is a wide variety here of box cameras, folders, viewfinder and instant film cameras, and they date from the 1940s to the 1980s. Photographs can hold precious memories, and many of the photographs in our archives were taken on cameras such as these. In the mid-20th century, many a home had a china cabinet as a focal point in the kitchen or dining room. They were a useful way of displaying treasured heirlooms, crockery and glassware. In this section of the museum, we show the domestic life of a typical crofting family of the area. This model is of a typical croft house from the time of the Great War. The last such house in this area was vacated in the late 1950s. Harris tweed was produced by crofters in their own homes. It is a cottage industry that continues to this day and is highly skilled work. The wool went through many stages of processing before it could be woven into tweed. Kinloch crofters relied largely by way of food on what their crofts could provide. This meant rearing livestock and growing crops. Most crofters kept sheep and cows, and if they could afford them, horses were very useful for transportation and ploughing. Otherwise, the ploughing and other hard labour would be done by hand. In the late 1800s, 33 fishing boats were registered to owners in the Kinloch area. Most of these would carry a crew of 4 or 5, and they would fish in the local loch or as far away as the Scottish East Coast. Kinloch women could also find seasonal employment as herring girls, gutting and curing fish. The first school in Kinloch was established at Cowes in 1737. From 1815 it was superseded by the Gaelic schools. Further schools were built in Knocky and Du in 1888, Ballalan in 1889 and Arivruich in 1893, though all have now closed. Due to the widespread use of horses, village smithies were an essential part of community life. There are reminders of these old industries, such as the moulds used to make cruise lamps, and the horseshoes and bits you can see on display here. From 1885, the mail for lochs was delivered by horse to 67 Ballalan, where the sorting office and stables were initially based. Later post offices were established in Laxey, Cowes and Arivruich. Often, a shop would operate alongside the post office. The first doctor appointed to the parish of Lochs around 1860 was Dr. Douglas Sinclair, though the first doctor's residence came much later, in 1889, and was built at Cowes. The nurse's cottage, meanwhile, was at Cleach, East Ballalan, and nurses travelled around the district by bicycle. The first church in the district was built at Sordal around 1724, though only a few stones from that building remain. A new church was built for the parish at Cowes in the early 1830s, but in 1928 the church was transferred to Bernera and the Cowes building was sold. Our gift shop holds many locally made crafts, including jewellery, Harris tweed and prints of the local landscape, as well as a good selection of history books, many of which have been published by Kinloch Historical Society. We offer locals and visitors important services in our community hub, including a charge point for electric vehicles, office spaces for rent, and a laundrette, which opened in 2016 and has been very busy ever since. Situated in the hub is Ballalan Bistro, which is operated as a separate franchise. Our charity shop is run by community volunteers and has been operating since 2014.